This is Mommy Sexual reporting for duty.
Don't forget to subscribe if you would like more of me, if you like more of my voice. Hello, you beautiful boys. Trio finale.
Yo, 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 hello to everybody. So in today's video, I'm basically going to be reading something that I found off of Reddit. It is in regard to a Kyubey conspiracy theory. So yeah, we're basically going to go, I'm going to read through this, and afterwards, while I'm reading this, I'm going to give my thoughts on what was presented in this particular theory. And of course, you guys are obviously watching this and essentially playing along with me. So we are going to have a little discussion. I'm going to give my thoughts, and you guys can let me know your thoughts as I go through this. So without further ado, let's go. Okay, so the title is Absurd Headcanon, the Incubator Conspiracy. Okay, so hello, fellow Madoka-holics. The following post has been brewing in my head for quite some time, but only now did I find the time to sit down and put it into words. It's about a personal interpretation of the motives and goals of the incubators, which I'm quite certain that contradicts what Urobuchi and co. have in mind about them, as implied in the series and movies, and I'm not posting it to convince you that it's true. I don't believe the series will go there myself either, but because I find the idea fascinating and I think it could spark an interesting conversation, as any good conspiracy theory, it is also impossible to actually disprove, so I would implore you to not take it too seriously nor get drawn into needless heated arguments regarding its merit, but merely ponder upon my theory and the implications it could have, if true, for the Madoka universe. I also apologize for the unprecedented enormity of my post. The TLDR follows immediately after this sentence. Okay, so I guess I probably could have skipped all that. Anyway, my conspiracy theory's core statement is the following. Everything that has happened thus far in Madoka Magica has been 100% predicted by the incubators and is in fact part of their ultimate plan. Oh god, that's an interesting thought. That's an interesting kind of scary thought. Okay. Allow me to lay out the clues that explain how I came to the above conclusion. Please note that this theory was originally formulated before Rebellion, a film which challenges the theory but still can't disprove it, and that it is also born from the perspective of a science fiction fan. While Madoka is definitely still part of the fantasy fiction genre, despite its sci-fi elements. So while watching the original series, I couldn't help but notice a bizarre, though subtle, inconsistency concerning Kyubey. On the one hand, he keeps on talking about how he doesn't understand humans, their values, and their emotions, and claims to be surprised by the way they react. Relevant quotes. It never fails. Whenever I tell you humans the simple facts, you always react the same way. It makes no sense at all. Episode 6. This is basically when Kyubey had essentially, when he had that moment with Kyoko and Madoka essentially getting upset over what happened with Sayaka seemingly dying when Madoka threw her soul gem onto the truck or whatever. This is basically the quote from that episode. And he also says, "We've had a hard time understanding you humans and your value system too. I came here to try to explain ourselves to you. I was genuinely hoping you'd understand." And another one is, I guess I weren't successful, which was episode 9. "We were surprised when we discovered the human species. We never imagined ... I guess I'll never understand human values," episode 12. Interesting. So essentially all the quotes that Kyubey made in relationship to not understanding humans and how they feel and etc., etc. That's interesting. Let's see here. On the other hand, he displays impeccable timing and an uncanny knack in emotional manipulation. I don't need to remind you how he always shows up at the exact moment where the girls are at their most vulnerable. God, this is so true. What's interesting about Kyubey is, yes, we all pretty much know that he is doing what he's doing for the good of the universe. You cannot really doubt the fact that he is still a manipulating bastard, because this is exactly what he does. Because if you think back to the moment in episode 4 where Sayaka was with Kyosuke and Kyosuke was kind of getting upset over the fact that his, hands, couldn't play, his violin anymore. And this was the moment where Sayaka had essentially grabbed him after he slammed his hand into the CD. And then Kyosuke's like, If only magic and miracles existed, and then maybe somehow that could help me. And then Sayaka says, oh, they do exist. And that was when Kyubey showed up. I'm just using this as an example, but if you actually think about the moments in the original Madoka Magica series, it is actually a fact that every time the girls are in a vulnerable state, like just think of all the times where Madoka was watching the girls suffering, like when you think about the fight that she had with Sayaka, and Kyubey was like, if you wanted to, you could totally stop this. Like, he totally, it's just kind of funny how he like has these moments where he asks girls to make contracts during the moments when they're like in distress, when they're vulnerable. Hell, you could even take the moment when Mommy made her wish to Kyubey. Like, he literally showed up right when she was like at this really distressful state. Like, it does happen pretty often when you really think about it. Anyway, how he appeals to their most fundamental desires. See, this pretty much goes with what I just said. How he appeals to their most fundamental desires or fears. As I said, Kyubey is always seen asking in relationship to contracts when the girls are in very vulnerable states. And this is the truth. Like, he does that very, very often. It's just such a coinky dink when you think about it. How he toys with them like a puppet master, stressing Sayaka's lack of talent, allowing Kyoko to believe she could save her, preying on Madoka's desire to protect her and everyone else, even managing to convince Homura that she's to blame for the accumulated potential suffering of Madoka so that she gives up and almost surrenders to despair. Holy shit. You know, he does say this to her. He does essentially bring this to her attention. It makes you question if, damn, oh my god, if he literally did that to Homura purposely, what a bastard. And it almost worked. At the end of the episode 11, it almost worked. What a little bastard. He seems to be in control at all times in the series, except when Madoka makes her final wish. But then he gets his cool back again when talking about the mechanics of the new universe that Madoka created to Homura and Madoka. And is quite knowledgeable and informative regarding a cosmic event like that, which should be novel, mysterious, and unexpected, and scary, even to a species like him. And wow, and why, how is he there with them in the first place? At least he tries to explain why Homura is there, but him. This is very true. If you guys think about that moment where Madoka makes her wish, toward the end of the episode 12, it is very interesting to note that Kyubey is actually with Homura and Madoka, and that is actually never explained why. It's never explained. So are we supposed to just accept that for what it is? Like, what could that mean? You know, it could mean something. That's interesting. Anyway, then besides that contradiction, I also noticed an unusually high number of coincidences for the events of the series to take place. An intricate puzzle of circumstances and personalities need to be assembled. We need the world's kindest, bravest, and most selfless and self-sacrificing person, Madoka, to meet with the world's most lonely, socially awkward, and self-loathing, but also determined, preserving, and single-minded person, Homura, while in the presence of the perfect mentor, Mommy, the perfect tragic victim, Sayaka, and the perfect agitator, Kyoko. That's kind of a little jab at Kyoko there. Under the looming threat of the most powerful and devastating witch, Walpurgisnacht, without any of these pieces, the whole structure falls apart. Even just the concentration, even just the concentration itself of 5 magical girls in Miki Kahara seems to be suspiciously high, or the coincidence that the appearance of the incubators, cute and cuddly, happens to be ideal for appealing to their targets, which are teenage girls, almost as if they were designed that way for maximum emotional manipulation. Well, yeah, I think that goes without saying. I think Kyubey was made to look how he looked on purpose for the sake of manipulating the girls. That's what I think. I mean, because I think we all pretty much kind of got sucked in by his cuteness when we first watched. Anyway, also, we have the issue plot hole, unless the theory is true, that the incubators behave very inefficiently, even irrationally. If what they want is only to achieve their stated goals, to just get girls, and especially Madoka, to make a contract, become witches and collect their energy to counteract entropy, here is also where my sci-fi perspective comes into place. I can't believe that a perfectly rational, utilitarian, and technologically advanced species would A, consider it a good idea to destroy an endlessly replenishable energy source, humanity, just to gather an incredible but still finite amount of energy, and B, that they would allow such freedom to the person that stands as their greatest adversary and keeps throwing a spammer in their works. Seriously, some people were upset that the incubators in Rebellion got so hands-on as to essentially kidnap, imprison, and experiment on Homura, but I wonder why Kyubey didn't do that during the series instead, despite mentioning that some things are against the rules and that they treat humans with respect. The utilitarian philosophy of the incubators shouldn't contain the notion of honor, and they shouldn't hesitate to commit any act, no matter how vile or underhanded, in the name of the greater good, including killing or imprisoning Homura, nor should it be hard for them to do that if they wanted to. Instead, they just subtly manipulate her into self-destruction, putting their whole operation at risk. It makes no sense, and that's why I assume that they have a secret agenda as well. Finally, there is a minor detail which sparked this whole theory. I personally found Kyubey's wording when he contracted Homura in the first timeline to be surprisingly honest, relatively to his other contracts, and informative, without a reason to be that way. Is that really what you want, Homura Akemi? Would you trade your soul to have a wish like that come true? If there's something you want badly and you're willing to accept a destiny battling witches, then I can help you get what you want. Absolutely, you have more than enough potential, so tell me, what is the one wish you'd have that would make your soul gem shine? The contract is complete. Your wish has overcome entropy. Your wish has overcome entropy. Wow. Is that actually what gets said in the actual subtitle version? That is interesting. Because this is actually an interesting statement right here. Your wish has overcome entropy. Very interesting. That is very interesting. That actually says something about Homura and her potential. That's very, very interesting, actually. Huh. Yes. Anyway. Go now. Go and unleash your magical power. He reveals that she will be trading her soul and mentions entropy. Plus, not only is he not surprised or even slightly worried at all when she expresses her time-traveling wish, but instead appears satisfied that she did. The camera focuses on his creepy internal smile and urges her to fulfill her destiny. Kyubey expected and wanted Homura to have this particular wish that would result in Madoka becoming the focus of so many timelines, and with a karmic potential so massive as to rewrite the laws of the universe. So what does my theory claim is happening? Using sci-fi tropes and keeping as much of the official canon intact, I propose the following timeline. The incubators, desperately searching for a way to combat the heat death of the universe, one day stumble upon a phenomenon beyond the boundaries of the laws of nature, magic. Their experiments and research fail to define the fundamental nature of magic, but they manage to identify and map its relation to emotional beings and their karma. Since it seems the most promising solution to the problem of entropy, the incubators devote all their resources to studying emotional beings. The way we study quantum physics, we may never be able to intuitively comprehend the concept of particles existing at two places at once or of higher dimensions, but we are perfectly able to create supremely accurate mathematical models that can predict the behavior of such complex systems. Thus, teenage human girls are chosen as the most efficient targets. The incubators modify their form to appeal to them, and using their advanced human behavioral simulation machines to predict behaviors and actions and wishes as to most efficiently manipulate their targets, the harvest begins. Oh, good Lord. Wow. Very interesting. Wow. Oh my God, wow, very interesting stuff. Oh, wow. let's continue on. This is actually kind of long. Yeah. Let's see here. Now the theory hits a crucial point. It theorizes that at some point the incubators figured out that the magical girl system is unsustainable as it is. I can think of many potential reasons. Maybe they figured that it is inevitable that an uber witch like Kurim Kirito Gretchen or Walpurgisnacht will arise that will wipe out humanity. Maybe they calculated that when humans became advanced enough to detect the incubator interference, they would rebel against them and put an end to the harvest. That was a pre-rebellion thought, or maybe due to some underlying parameter of the universe, the harvest is not enough, and say entropy increases faster the more magical energy is introduced in the system. Whatever the reason, they calculate that the best solution to create a new universe where there is a different system in place and or some parameters are fine-tuned differently. To achieve that, enormous energy is required. They estimate that it would take nothing less than the combined energy of 100 plus timelines, parallel universes, and so they put all their simulators to work, cranking out billions of scenarios so as to find the one path that will give them the desired results, armed with the results of that search. So essentially, he's trying to say to Kyubey knew everything that was going to happen. Oh God, wow. Okay, anyway, they proceed to carefully manipulate the entire course of human history, and not just the big events, but the little details as well. Every relationship and every decision ever made, everything so that 5 girls. Oh Jesus, I don't think they had that kind of long-term plan. I don't think they had this kind of long-term plan. Jesus, wow. I just don't see it. I feel like that's like wow, I don't think they thought like this. Everything so that 5 girls with very special and specific personalities end up together at the same time in the same city 1 month and a few days before Walpurgisnacht is destined to strike. By the way, how did Mommy know Walpurgisnacht is coming in timeline 1? Only Kyubey could have come up with such information. Isn't that interesting? Yeah, they don't really explain that, though I know in different story, doesn't she say the same thing, or was that Kyoko that said it? I don't quite remember. I doubt Mommy's involved in any of this stuff. Then, when Homura's endless loop begins, I imagine each timeline's incubators firing up their supercomputers that have initially calculated the roadmap to Madoka to try and identify where in the loop they are located. Mommy lost her mind and started shooting everybody. That's a timeline 3 event, everybody. Kyoko blew her own soul gem and died with Octavia. Plus Madoka's potential was measured at 7 trillion Google Gold karmas. This means we're in timeline 121. Initiate operation, lead Homura to despair, and infuse Madoka's mind with the information about all past magical girls and their suffering ASAP. You know, it's funny, I almost want to add something to this. You know, it's actually funny because I actually have a theory in relationship. I don't know if I should say it now. I guess I will in case I forget, but it's funny because I actually had a theory that I made on this channel once where I talked about how Kyubey could essentially manipulate Madoka into becoming a dark magical girl. I will have that linked somewhere as a card or in the description. What's really interesting is that if you connect my theory, if you see that video and you connect my theory to his video, Kyubey essentially might have led Madoka to become, you know, the god that she ultimately is. And in the concept trailer, basically after Madoka continues, I essentially theorize in my video that there's a possibility that Kyubey is going to manipulate Madoka into connecting with her witch counterpart in the form of Kurim Kirito Gretchen. And yeah, so I mentioned that I don't remember the video in full detail, but essentially I just analyzed Kyubey's because he pays very special attention to Madoka in the concept trailer. And based on how the trailer looks, because I'm always mentioning that it's made very clear that if the concept trailer is used in the next project, Madoka will most likely become evil because that's kind of what's shown in the actual trailer. So it's just interesting to think that and I'm not saying that what he's projecting is true, because truth be told, I kind of think there's a lot of overthinking in this, if I'm being honest. I mean, it's fun, don't get me wrong, it is fun, and it is fun to think that Kyubey could have potentially planned it all out. It is interesting, and it's a fun little idea, and as I said, my theory sort of connects with the idea that, you know, Kyubey will most likely manipulate Madoka, which will cause her to, you know, become a dark magical girl, aka connecting to her witch counterpart. It's just interesting to think that, you know, it's just a fun little like thing to imagine if this was all true. So that's where my that's where my conspiracy theory stood before the coming of Rebellion. It claimed that the incubators had predicted and planned and guided everything so that Madoka would create her new world exactly the way she did, because for whatever reason the new world and system was preferable, more stable, more sustainable than the old. Rebellion challenged the theory, both with the fact that the incubators tried to undo the law of cycles, and also because their apparent defeat and enslavement at the hands of Homusifier, but it also gave it more fuel with the establishment of the isolation field technology, which can block even laws of nature, and a true conspiracy theory can always kick that can down the road. Post-Rebellion, the theory transforms to claim that the creation of Madoka Kami and her universe wasn't the actual end goal of the incubator's plan, but merely the first step of an even longer procedure. Once again, this sort of connects with what I mentioned before about Kyubey wanting to... Well, I'm not saying that this is a true theory, but again, it is interesting. The rise of Homusifier is also still part of the plan, step 2, and the incubator defeat merely an act. Oh God, look at what he says here. And the incubator defeat merely an act so that Homer will continue to behave as if she is expected to in the simulations. In fact, the bulk of the incubator race dwells particularly outside the universe, an isolation field that even Madoka Kami and Homusifier can't detect. And you want to know what another thing that I find interesting about this? I actually wanted to make a video about it, but I sort of doubt most of you are going to even get to this part in the video. But essentially, I had this idea where I wanted to make a video where I talked about some of the biggest plot holes in the Madoka Magica series. I might still make that because I'm sure most people probably will not hear me say what I'm about to say. But one of the biggest plot holes in Madoka Magica, in my opinion, is the fact that Madoka is supposed to have this ability that when she made her wish in episode 12, she's supposed to have the ability to see all timelines, past, present, and future, after she made her wish to become a god, so to speak. And I always found it weird that she would make this wish and then we basically get Rebellion, where she was not able to foresee what Kyubey was actually going to do with Homer. I mean, if she had the ability to foresee all the timelines, then it would kind of make sense if she was able to do it. Now, I just want to express that, yes, I am aware that Rebellion was not planned by the time the Madoka series ended. So when they made the decision to have Madoka have the ability to see all timelines, obviously they did not have Rebellion in mind. But even if that's the case, I still think they could have found a better way to sort of cover this up. It's like if you establish rules in an anime about how something is, I'm not particularly a fan of when these rules are broken. That's one of the reasons why I'm not very big on Fairy Tail, because Fairy Tail likes to break rules all the time. But that's a different story. But anyways, yeah, so I'm not particularly a fan when an anime establishes rules and then they just conveniently break them just because, without at least give like a proper explanation. But what I like about what he's saying here is that when he mentions where did he say this? What did he say? Okay. Also gave more fuel to the establishment of it. I'm trying to find, and the true conspiracy theory can always kick the can down the road. Post-Rebellion, the theory transforms to a claim that the creation of Madoka Kami in our universe. Oh man. Okay, so I found it. So yeah. That plot hole that I just mentioned. I like what he says here because this sort of explains why Madoka couldn't have predicted what the incubators did in Rebellion. In fact, the bulk of the incubator's race dwells particularly outside the universe in isolation fields that even Madoka Kami and Homusifier can't detect. So essentially, if you could make the argument that maybe the reason that Madoka couldn't see it is because Kyubey has some kind of special power that makes that, you know, maybe his field is undetectable by other people because he has a power that is just, you know, very mystical, and nobody, you know, that's just very mystical and nobody really like understands what's going on or something like that. So yeah, it's interesting to think that, you know, because Kyubey might have some special power that makes it maybe impossible for Madoka, Kami, and Homeless Fire to kind of be able to detect anything. Anyway, so moving on, and remain unaffected by both the rewrites of the universe and the timeline's reset. The later is a retcon of the previous paragraph, always observing and interfering when needed in their grand experiment. Okie dokie. Oh god, we're at the end. Shit, this actually turned out way longer than I expected. Okay, I'll end this book-sized post with a sci-fi but very bad physics suggestion on what the very end goal of the incubator conspiracy could be. Note, again, that I don't believe even for a second that the writers could possibly go towards this direction, nor would I want them to either. My suggestion is rather depressing, nihilistic, and based on a very bad science, don't forget. It assumes that the many worlds theories in true... I guess we can quickly look at this. I may regret it because this video is dragging on way too long. Let's see here. I'm just going to kind of glance at this. Let's see here. Many worlds interpretation. Actually, you know what? Forget it. That's too much. So he links something to Wiki here, and also goes further to claim that the endless branch into new universes is the very reason why entropy exists, and it cannot be reduced unless the parallel universes merge back into one instead of diverging magic in Madoka Magica. Then is nothing else but a form of interaction between the parallel universes. In essence, the magical energy that the incubators harvest comes from some other parallel universe, and what Homura did with her time loops was simply to merge a few of those universes into one. Therefore, I propose that the incubator's final goal is to reverse the splitting of the universes, and that the only way to achieve that is to create the ultimate time loop that will go from whatever final universe the series ends at back to the beginning of the first universe and first Homura timeline, with all the events of Madoka Magica happening again and again, exactly the same way for all eternity. If you survive this martial post, I thank you very much for reading this and look forward to hearing comments you have. Okie dokie. I'm just gonna quickly scroll through this. This was a really long freaking. Okay, what a very classy what a very classic comment right here. Wow, what a very classic comment. Very nice. What a amount of class. Version of Kyubey. Okay, so I'm trying to see if there's anything to add here. My absurd headcanon is not entirely. I'm considered that as well. And unlike my theory, it's something that is possible to actually be the case and revealed to be so in the sequel, as well as something that I'd love to see happening in the end. While I wouldn't want my depressing ultimate time loop scenarios to be true, the only snag is that I can hardly see Madoka allowing or playing for Homura to go through so much suffering as she is both during and after rebellion. No matter how good the end goal is, that is something that fits the incubator's way of thought, but not Madoka's. She's not the end justifies the means kind of person. Reminds me of Kiritsugu from Fate Zero. This thought struck me too a couple of days. If Madoka is really an omniscient goddess, wouldn't she know beforehand what Homura would do? And if that's the case, then there is really a chance that she purposely fell into the trap and let Homura do her thing. Oh god, that's pretty interesting. So what do you guys think about this? So, because I just mentioned before about Madoka being able to see all timelines, past, present, and future. So what's presented here? So essentially, what's being said here? Wouldn't she know that Homura? Wouldn't she know what Homura would do? And if that's the case, then there is really a chance that she purposely fell into the trap and let Homura do her thing. Do you think this could? Do you think Madoka allowing Homura to do what she did could be some kind of elaborate trap to actually fool the incubators yet again? Do you guys think that's a possibility? Let me know. That is an interesting thought. I just, I mean, it would make sense because Madoka should be able to see through everything, but at the same time, she had quite the shocked look on her face when all that happened. So I don't know. That was a very fun read. It pleases my mind space to know I'm not alone in thinking too much about Madoka. Very interesting. It could very well be true if you assume that Urobuchi Gen is an incubator. Oh god, what would Gen Urobuchi be like as an incubator? That's definitely an interesting theory you have, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if the incubators do in fact have some other end goal. There is one suspicious line that I think you forgot, where Kyubey tells Madoka that they've been interfering in human development throughout history. I find it kind of arguable that wishes can count as active interference, since the incubators just sort of unlock them, and in the first place, it's the girls that's making the wishes and not the incubators. Yeah, they actually are interfering. Holy crap. On one hand, he keeps talking about how he doesn't understand human. I think he. On one hand, he keeps talking about how he doesn't understand humans, their values, and their emotions, and claims to be surprised by the way they react. On the other hand, he displays impeccable timing and uncanny knack in emotional manipulation. I don't need to remind you how he always shows up at the exact moment where the girls are at their most vulnerable. How he appeals to their most fundamental desires or fears. How he toys with them like a puppet master. Even if they can't understand feelings, they probably know by experience how the girls will react. They target girls in a specific age range, class, personality, which means they are more likely to follow a certain path. The events of the series probably repeated themselves innumerable occasions. And how is he there? Okay, maybe I just need to skip because I read all this already. I'm just trying to see what this other person is saying. And this is super cheap. And maybe it's just because Homer and Kyubey were close to Madoka when she made her wish. Or coincidence that the appearance of the incubators cute and cuddly happens to be the ideal appealing to their target's teenage girl. That is exactly both meta and universe. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the incubators manipulated their own bodies. The fact that they can absorb grief seeds is already approved to seem cuter, but the main reason they were given a cute design is just because the show had to seem like a normal magical girl anime. Let's see here. I can't believe okay. I'm just kind of trying to speed through this because this is like a lot of reading. It could be they have some frozen humans ready to plant to their other planets in case something frozen humans. Oh my god. Frozen planets in case something happened, or maybe Earth is just a farm between billion others. In any case, they wouldn't care about losing one planet if in exchange they can get their sweet Madoka energy, which kind of makes sense because in one of the timelines when Madoka becomes a witch, Kyubey's like, well, it's humanity's problem now. So he actually didn't really give a crap in that particular timeline that humanity was pretty much doomed at that point. Maybe they realized that making Homer disappear could make Madoka more weary of them, and then goodbye, contract. He always wears that stupid smile, and besides, why should he feel worried at all? Every single magical girl in the whole human history has never reacted and never reached an happy ending before. They all die in despair, so why would he suspect that the weak Momura would be a special case? He surely just assumed she could endure a couple of timelines before witching out, like it probably already happened with other magical girls before. Even with isolation field, how can they stay unaffected from something that rewrites the universe from the ground up? I also hypothesized something similar as one of the possible endings. Let's hope they go for something less heartbreaking. Okie dokie, so yeah, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to share this interesting theory. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. I'll catch you later. Mommy Sexual signing out. Peace.